for you. All right, Pisces, let's get into your reading. So, the message coming in strong today is this: their relationship with a third party is different. People have been talking about you, and the cards are confirming every single word of it. Let us go ahead and dive into this because the energy around this situation carries real weight today. You may have noticed something off, something that did not fully make sense to your spirit. The connection between this person and the third party, it does not hold the depth you imagined. Your intuition picked up on fragments, and now the cards are laying it all bare before you. The story you were presented with, it never quite aligned with what your gut kept whispering. Your spirit held on to that unease for a reason, and the confirmation you needed arrives with this card. Here's our first card, the Seven of Swords, and it validates exactly what you have been sensing. This card does not show up for honest connections. It reveals where illusion has been carefully maintained. The bond they share with the third party, it lacks warmth. It misses any real emotional substance. Seven of Swords reveals that appearances have been deceiving, and the truth is far more layered than shown. Underneath the surface of that connection, there are cracks that most people would never bother to notice. What others witnessed firsthand, the whispers and the observations, they are rooted in actual clarity today. People around you have noticed the shift. They felt the disconnect even before you acknowledged it yourself. The conversations circulating are not empty gossip. They carry weight because people actually see the imbalance. Your name keeps coming up in these circles, and it carries a tone of admiration rather than judgment. This card exposes the third party, placed into a role they were never truly equipped to fill. The emotional architecture of that bond crumbles under examination, and the Seven of Swords confirms every fracture. The next card coming through is the Empress, and she brings a completely different frequency into this reading. The Empress says that you hold a quality, a radiance, that the third party does not carry. There is a richness in your presence that others noticed, a magnetism they cannot walk away from. This card shows that the conversations happening about you, they stem from admiration and deep recognition of worth. The Empress validates that your presence has not gone unnoticed, and the words spoken carry only deep respect. You are being seen in ways that you have not fully realized yet, and that revelation matters profoundly. The warmth you naturally offer to those around you, it creates an impression that lingers long after contact. People remember how you made them feel, and that memory fuels the conversations they keep having about you. The way others describe you behind closed doors, it paints a portrait of warmth no title can contain. The Empress also confirms that your energy stands apart. It occupies a space that cannot be replicated easily. Where the third party brings uncertainty, you bring grounding, and the contrast has become undeniable to everyone. Then we have the Page of Cups, and this card adds an emotional layer that ties everything together. Page of Cups says that fresh emotional information is surfacing. Something tender and deeply meaningful is emerging. The feelings directed toward you hold sincerity, and they grew quietly in the background over extended time. This card also shows that the third party connection, despite appearances, lacked any real emotional depth underneath. New awareness is entering your field now, and it asks you to receive what has always belonged here. Page of Cups carries the energy of a message arriving, one that reshapes how you view this situation. The emotional truth beneath the surface favors you, and the cards have made that unmistakably clear today. The clarity arriving now refuses to be subtle. It demands that you finally acknowledge your own significance. What you have been sensing is not paranoia, it is your inner knowing catching up with the truth. The cards are validating that instinct today because what you felt in your gut was absolutely accurate. This reading affirms that the narrative you were told, it never matched the spiritual truth hiding underneath. People see your worth, the universe recognizes your value, and the cards are echoing that exact same message. Trust what has been placed on your heart, because this message arrived for a reason you cannot dismiss. Now, let us talk about where you stand in all of this, because your inner world needs attention. The weight you have been carrying lately, it has settled into places you do not even recognize. There is a heaviness sitting in your chest, and it has been growing thicker with each passing day. You keep replaying moments in your mind, wondering if you missed something that was always right there. The exhaustion is not physical, it runs deeper than that. It lives in the marrow of your emotions. You have been questioning yourself in silence, second-guessing decisions that once felt completely certain to you. Your confidence took a hit somewhere along the way, and recovering from that blow has been painfully slow. Our first card today is the Four of Cups, and it mirrors exactly where your emotions have landed. Four of Cups shows a withdrawal from the world, a pulling inward that happened without your full permission. You stopped reaching out for comfort, not because you forgot how, but because the vulnerability felt dangerous. The guard you built around your heart, it was never part of the original design for your life. Four of Cups confirms numbness crept in where passion once lived, and that shift hollowed you out quietly. You kept staring at what is missing, instead of recognizing the abundance still surrounding your every move. That emotional fog made it harder to trust your own instincts, and doubt became your constant companion. Underneath all of that protective armor, there exists a longing you have refused to name out loud. You crave resolution. You crave peace. But the path toward either one feels impossibly tangled right now. The frustration is not about lacking patience. It is about pouring into something that never poured back. Your heart memorized every unanswered question, and those questions turned into walls you built, brick by brick. The next card we have is the High Priestess, and she illuminates the hidden corridors of your intuition. High Priestess says that your inner voice has been screaming, but the noise around you drowned it out. You knew the truth long before any confirmation arrived, and that knowing sat heavy inside your ribcage. The conflict you feel is not confusion, it is tension between what you know and what you accepted. High Priestess reveals that your subconscious absorbed every red flag, even the ones your waking mind dismissed. You processed far more than you gave yourself credit for, and that silent processing drained you significantly. The dreams that kept you restless at night, they were your spirit trying to decode what daylight refused. Wisdom lives inside you at a depth you have not accessed, and it waits patiently for your return. High Priestess confirms that your instincts were never broken. They were temporarily buried under layers of doubt. The quietest part of your soul held the clearest answers, and you are only beginning to hear them. Following that, we see the Nine of Wands, and it captures the exhaustion etched into your entire being. Nine of Wands shows a fighter who has taken blow after blow, yet still refuses to fall completely. You have been standing on sheer willpower alone, and the strain of that stance shows in your spirit. Every ounce of resilience you possess has been tested, and the fatigue behind your eyes tells that story. Nine of Wands confirms that surrender has crossed your thoughts, not as weakness, but as desperate self-preservation. The battle scars you carry internally, they mapped a journey of endurance most people would never survive. You kept showing up when everything inside you begged for permission to stop, and that takes remarkable courage. The tears you held back became cement in your throat, and breathing through that pressure took enormous effort. Your emotional reserves hit empty more than once, yet somehow you found a way to refuel in isolation. The cards validate that you earned every breakthrough coming because the resistance you faced was extraordinary. The ache you feel is not a flaw. It is evidence of how deeply your whole heart invested. You gave pieces of yourself away freely, and the cost of that generosity caught up to you gradually. What remains after all of that giving? It is a core of strength you have yet to comprehend. The stillness you crave is not laziness. It is your spirit begging for restoration after relentless emotional output. Trust that the weariness you carry right now, it holds purpose, even when that purpose feels invisible. Okay, let us shift the lens entirely now, because we need to understand their side of this. This person has been sitting with emotions they cannot organize, and the disorder consumes them internally. The turmoil brewing inside of them, it did not appear overnight. It accumulated over months of avoidance. They built a version of themselves that looks composed, but fractures underneath every visible surface. Fear drives most of their decisions lately, and that fear wears the disguise of cold indifference. This person carries guilt they have not verbalized, and that unspoken burden rots their sense of peace. The mask they present to the world requires constant maintenance, and the exhaustion of that act is real. Come in close, because our first card for their energy is the Knight of Pentacles. It speaks volumes. The Knight of Pentacles shows a person moving cautiously, terrified of making the wrong emotional investment here. This person overthinks every interaction, measuring risk before allowing any feeling to surface on its own. They want stability desperately, but their definition of stability has been warped by past disappointments entirely. The card confirms that their emotional availability is limited, not from cruelty, but from deep self-protection. They have been calculating every step with precision, afraid that one misstep could unravel their fragile control. The rigidity they display is not strength. It is a fortress constructed from wounds they never healed. Beneath that controlled exterior, there lives a tenderness they consider dangerous to ever fully expose. This person feels more than they will ever admit publicly, and that suppression creates an internal war. Their pride became their prison, and the bars of that cage were forged from rejection internalized young. Knight of Pentacles reveals that loyalty exists within them, but suspicion and overthinking keep burying it. The next card arriving for their emotional state is the Moon, and it uncovers the shadows they inhabit. The Moon says that confusion dominates their inner world, and clarity feels like a luxury they lack. This person wanders through their own feelings without a compass, lost between desire and terror constantly. The Moon confirms that illusion plays a massive role, shaping how they process emotional attachments at present. They convince themselves that distance equals safety, and that lie became the foundation of recent choices. This person battles anxiety they mask with detachment, and that performance costs them enormous hidden energy. The fears haunting them are not rational. They are rooted in old narratives that no longer apply. Moon energy reveals their subconscious holds buried memories, things they deliberately avoid confronting during waking hours. The emotional labyrinth they occupy has no visible exit, and the longer they stay, the deeper it pulls. This person recognizes the damage of their own patterns, but acknowledgement without correction changes nothing. Then we have the Six of Swords, and this card paints a portrait of emotional transition in motion. The Six of Swords shows heaviness in their drift, a slow departure from what once anchored their identity. This person feels the pull of something unfamiliar calling forward, yet familiar pain keeps dragging them back. Their grief is not for what ended, it is for what never had the chance to fully begin. The card confirms that emotional fatigue reached a critical point, and their spirit demands a new direction. They have been mourning in silence, processing losses the outside world never witnessed or validated. The sadness sitting in their chest is layered, each layer representing a version of themselves they abandoned. This person understands at a cellular level that something must shift, but initiating that terrifies them deeply. Their emotional landscape resembles a battlefield after the war, scarred and quiet, but not rebuilt yet. Six of Swords reveals their heart holds a strange mixture, with hope and exhaustion living side by side. The longing they suppress daily, it leaks through in moments they cannot control, and those moments haunt them. They feel torn between protecting themselves and surrendering, caught in the pull that real connection demands. This person is not emotionless. They are overwhelmed by the weight of feeling too much without proper tools. The internal contradiction defining them at present, it is the space between craving warmth and fearing cost. What sits heaviest on their heart, it is the awareness that their own walls became the obstacle.
So let us get into what this person is about to do, because real movement is forming. The cards show concrete steps being taken, and these are not hypothetical. They are already in motion. A tipping point has been reached on their end, and the decision being made shifts everything forward. The hesitation that once defined their behavior, it dissolves rapidly under the pressure of recognition. They are preparing to break a pattern that kept them static, and that preparation involves reaching out. A conversation is being planned on their end, one that carries weight and intention behind every word. Courage is being gathered to close the distance, and the timeline for action is shorter than expected. Let us see what the cards are showing today, because our first card is the Two of Wands. Two of Wands confirms that a decision has been made internally, and execution is the only remaining step. The approach is being mapped out carefully, every detail of their re-entry strategized with calculated precision. They are choosing between two paths forward, and the one pulling strongest leads directly toward reconciliation.
Two of Wands shows them standing at a crossroads, but their body language leans toward one clear outcome. The planning happening behind closed doors involves direct communication, a reaching out they have been rehearsing. Permission is no longer being waited on. The internal green light switched, and momentum builds from here. Small, observable changes in daily routine have started, repositioning closer to familiar spaces with quiet intention. The adjustments are subtle but strategic, showing up where proximity becomes intentional rather than accidental entirely. Revealed by Two of Wands, the third-party situation is being actively reassessed, and boundaries are redrawn. Contact with that connection is being reduced physically, creating visible distance with unmistakable, deliberate purpose. The withdrawal from the third party is not dramatic. It is a quiet repositioning of their priorities. Room is being made for what they actually want, and clearing that space requires dismantling old arrangements. Shared commitments with the third party are being revisited, and those conversations are happening very soon. The next card coming through is the Eight of Cups, confirming a deliberate departure from the familiar. Eight of Cups shows a physical turning away from what stopped fulfilling them, choosing departure over comfort. The leaving is not impulsive. It built methodically, and the final catalyst pushed them past the threshold. Active disengagement from routines anchored to a version of life they outgrew. That process accelerates now. Eight of Cups confirms they are packing emotional bags, preparing to exit a chapter that ran its course. The steps involve literal changes, new schedules, and altered habits that reflect shifted internal priorities entirely. Invitations and engagements tied to the old dynamic are being declined, creating separation through consistent action. Communication attempts are coming, and the format may surprise, a message or call arriving without warning. What to say is being rehearsed internally, edited and refined, because the stakes of contact feel monumental. The departure from the third party triggers a domino effect, visible behavioral shifts cascading one after another. Public presence is being updated, altered to signal availability and changed circumstances to anyone paying attention. The actions unfolding are not theories or wishes. They are tangible steps with deadlines attached to each. Newfound urgency drives their pace forward faster because delay no longer feels like an affordable luxury. Practical arrangements are being restructured, finances and shared obligations being separated with quiet, focused determination. Confirmed by Eight of Cups, the old chapter officially closes through action, not through words or promises. Movement accelerates within weeks, and the evidence of their decisions becomes impossible for anyone to miss. Forward motion is being chosen with finality, and the direction of that motion points toward reconnection. The steps being taken carry permanence, not temporary adjustments, but foundational changes in their daily structure. What arrives from their side is deliberate and irreversible, a recalibration announced through observable, consistent behavior. The cards confirm that action replaces stagnation from this point, and results speak louder than intentions. Contemplation has ended on their side, the phase of thinking concluded, and the phase of doing begins. Now, let us go deeper into this, because what they hide inside tells the real story. The confessions living beneath their silence, they hold a weight that would change everything if spoken. This person harbors truths they swore they would never release, and those truths eat at them daily. The words caught in their throat carry volcanic intensity, suppressed only by the fear of total exposure. They secretly wish they had never let distance grow between you, and that regret poisons their quiet hours. What remains unspoken on their end is not indifference, it is a desperate, unaddressed longing for closeness. The admission they refuse to make involves wanting you back with a ferocity that terrifies their rational mind. Let us go ahead and get into it, because our first card is the Ace of Cups. Profound. Ace of Cups says an overflow of emotion has been trapped inside them, pressurized beyond safe limits. The love they buried alive, it never decomposed. It fossilized into something permanent they cannot excavate alone. They fantasize about vulnerability with you, imagining conversations where they finally confess without filtering a single syllable. Confirmed by Ace of Cups, their deepest private confession involves wanting to surrender completely to what they feel. The desire they mask with composure, it screams behind every neutral expression they force themselves to wear. They rehearse apologies in their head at night, crafting sentences that never survive the morning light. What they will not tell the world is that the third-party connection, it was never a replacement. The secret guarded most fiercely, it is knowing the third party occupied a role meant only for you. Revealed by Ace of Cups, their hidden emotional truth involves comparing every interaction to the standard you set. Nobody else registers at the same frequency, and that private realization haunts their every waking moment. The jealousy they refuse to name involves watching your growth from a distance, unable to participate in it. They ache privately over missed milestones, birthdays, and celebrations they should have been present for entirely. Possessiveness they will never vocalize lives in them, a territorial instinct toward you they find deeply shameful. The next card we have is the Devil, and it exposes the obsessive undercurrent running beneath their composure. The Devil says this person is chained to thoughts of you, and that bondage is entirely self created. The fixation they hide from everyone, it consumes hours of their mental space without any visible evidence. They scroll through old photographs in private, revisiting memories with a hunger that borders on compulsive behavior. The Devil confirms that their attachment to you transcends what they labeled it, reaching far beyond casual territory. What they privately confess to their own reflection, it is that nobody else made them feel alive. The craving they suppress publicly involves hearing your voice, a visceral need they rationalize as mere nostalgia. Underneath the performed detachment, there exists a confession they consider too dangerous for any living person to hear. This person secretly believes you are the one, and that belief torments them because they fumbled the opportunity. The Devil reveals that guilt and desire coexist within them, tangled so tightly neither can breathe properly. They wish they could undo specific moments, conversations where pride overwrote honesty and left permanent emotional wreckage. The confession buried deepest, it involves admitting they were afraid of how intensely they needed you. Their hidden truth is that strength was performed, while every private moment crumbled under the weight. The vulnerability they locked away involves tears shed alone, grief processed in bathrooms and parked cars after midnight. What they will never say unprompted, it is that loving you felt like their most honest self. The admission trapped inside them, it is that safety existed only in your space and nowhere else since. The devil confirms that their silence was never absence of feeling. It was terror of its overwhelming magnitude. Every guarded expression they offer the world, it conceals a flood of undelivered words meant only for you. The rawness of what they carry privately, it contradicts every measured response they have ever offered publicly. These hidden confessions define the core of who they are, and every suppressed truth orbits around you. The secret they would take to their grave if never confronted, it is that you remain irreplaceable.
Okay, let us bring this reading to its conclusion because the near future holds something significant. The cards ahead paint a picture of resolution, and the timeline for that is closer than imagined. Our first card for what is coming is the Star, and it radiates pure healing into this situation. The Star confirms that restoration begins soon, where confusion lifts and emotional clarity replaces the fog. Reconciliation energy is strong in the weeks ahead, and honest dialogue arrives without force or pressure. The Star says renewed hope enters your world soon, and it carries a lightness you have not felt. Healing conversations unfold naturally ahead, guided by mutual readiness rather than manufactured urgency or desperation. The Star confirms the third party fades further into the background, becoming irrelevant to the central connection. What awaits you holds tenderness and sincerity, a chapter defined by maturity, replacing all preceding chaos. The near future brings proof through observable behavior, not empty declarations, and that proof arrives consistently. Now for your advice card, we have the Ten of Cups, offering guidance rooted in emotional abundance. Ten of Cups advises you to remain open to receiving because guarding your heart blocks incoming blessings. The advice centers on trusting the process unfolding, even when the speed of change feels uncomfortable. Guided by Ten of Cups, your highest outcome involves choosing faith over fear and welcoming natural alignment. The guidance is to release the need to control outcomes and instead allow divine timing its proper space. This card encourages you to envision the fulfillment you deserve and stop settling beneath that vision. Confirmed by Ten of Cups, emotional wholeness is available to you, but only without self-sabotage. Let us return to the message that opened this reading, because everything confirmed it, start to finish. The message was this: their relationship with the third party is not what you think. People are talking. Let us walk through the cards now, because each one played a specific role in telling this story. Seven of Swords in part 1 exposed the deception beneath the surface, confirming the third-party illusion. The Empress validated your worth and magnetism, showing conversations about you stem from deep admiration entirely. Page of Cups introduced fresh emotional awareness, confirming the third-party bond lacked real emotional foundation. Four of Cups reflected your emotional withdrawal, the protective numbness that settled over